Can you follow the mouse, or do I need the spotlight? I will do it like that. Over here is the vertical angle. Because of the first row, sometimes you have even really high screens. And if you compare that with ergonomics and Sightlines, you cannot go higher than 25 degrees before your skull hits your spine and you have problems to follow. And why is that important? Because you think you can see, you have a broad view within your eyes, but you can only read characters in a small area of 10 by 30 degrees. So if you have to follow when you're in the front, you really have to follow the text in this way. So you need to consider that when you design a space. So first thing is, of course, the baseline, and we give some warnings in colors. I hope you can see it when it comes too far. And what another thing is very important, that's where we normally start with, that is with the readability. We call it readability, the visual acuity, and it's based on what you have 100% with the optician. If you wear glasses, you know what it is, and if you compare that to spaces in general, most of the time the screens are smaller than this 100%. So this is a guideline, 70 arc minutes. You have 360 degrees within a circle, 1 degree is 60 minutes, and we are talking about 17 minutes. And sometimes you can even go lower to 14 minutes because students have eagle eyes. It also depends on the contrast of your screen that you can do better and sharper. But do not go lower because it's not the same as words in your native language. You need to read the formulas with these strange Greek characters. That's why it is in that way. So all about ergonomics in this way. I will go through this. This is a little reminder for me. Quick builder, tier height, tier depth, and now we have the screen baseline. And you can, of course, vary with the screen size. And again, you see the red chairs coming in just to attract your attention. Really think about it if you need, for instance, a larger screen or perhaps a wider hall, etc., etc. You can do many things by playing around. And that's next to that, I just want to show you, because it's real life calculated. If I do the screen on the ceiling, then I can track it into the space and I can rotate it and I can put it anywhere. And you see it's going red at the back of the screens, of course. I hope that you all can follow this idea. But by playing around, you can see where the problems are coming in. Then, of course, we have, I will go to the overlay, because I was talking about the side of your eyes, this very small size. And we do that with the segments. And in segments, we can alter this curvature. And now you can see that the cones are better focused to the project, to the screen, if you have only one screen. With a dual system, it's much broader, of course. And by alternating the distance row, you can really fit it you can optimize it as far as you can. It's very easy to play around. I do it with the mouse. If you want to do it very stiff, you do it with the arrow keys. So you can do it point by point. So okay, I can do final row. I can play around. And the last thing of this is about segments. And a segment is an area where we have sheets in. And what you can do, for instance, now you see that row 11, that is this one, is deleted or invisible, and you can play around. And for instance, you have a wheelchair placed somewhere in the first row, and now you can show you. I hope you can see the numbers. I'm not sure, but let's say that seat 5 to 9 had to disappear. So you can remove every single chair within this segment, so you can play around with it. I have only one segment, but you can add more I will not go into it now. Next to that is, this is one thing for the design, but there are so many managers in this hall who are responsible for more than one space. So you need to manage them too, and that's where we go into the admin pages. First I want to show you, and I must warn you, I'm logged in as a super user at the moment, but I wanted to show you that we have several roles here on the left side, AV, facilities, IT and furniture, and you see what functionalities they have when they log in with their role. And if I go back to a space which is saved, this one, and I will go to the admin 2, then we will get all the properties of that very hall. And what you see is the tabs in the top correspond with the role that you have, with the rights that you have within your role. And next to that we can also, because we start at 0 and we want to collect all the properties, we want to make it better, so you can put a status to your tab if you are responsible for it, or sometimes you have it as a team, and so you can know that you are complete or in progress or whatever. So you know from each other where you are with the status. If I go back to the configurator, there is also a properties pane, and it's on the right side where we have properties from projector, display, etc. And the projector is the most complicated one. I will not type it in, but I have a next slide, and I hope to show you what properties we save, because we cannot save them within a configuration database management, we cannot save it in a building management system, we cannot save it in a facility management system, so we do it in an Excel worksheet. And when you go away, your colleague does it in an own worksheet, and this is quite intensive over time. So that's why we wanted to do that within one database with extra things where we want to calculate with. For instance, the brightness, but also the operation noise. I'm not sure about you, but we have some problems where the projectors are too near to the audience, and we had some really noisy problems. So you want to know these aspects as well. Noise doesn't seem have a direct relation with projectors, but still they have, and it's the same for, of course, the power that they use. And perhaps you are triggered by this one, the CO2 equivalence. I will come back to that later, because you want to know what is your install base, what is my footprint as AVIT manager for my halls. Next to that, if you can play around, what we do, we are AVIXA lovers, as I may say. We do the contrast ratio because we want to know how good these systems are in our environments. And if you don't have daylights, such as this lecture hall, then it's always okay. But daylights is these days within the education space is quite mandatory, and they are the enemy of our projection systems. We really want to go around. On the other side, we have educational content that is more text-like, so the contrast is not as important as you have clinical studies where you really want the details, etc. So if you put all those things in, you get a linear line, how do you call it in English, proportional something, where we have an indication of, okay, let's forget about the technology, let's say diminishing of the projector itself, but let's base it on the linear decrease of the brightness of what, for instance, Panasonic says about their LED laser projectors. So we have depreciation times of 5 years, and if you stretch that, then I will come back to that later. Can you stretch that is the first one, and you have to have an indication about the quality of your system. So it's about operation hours, but next to the contrast ratio. That's where we want to work with. Then I want to show the dashboards. Dashboards are more for you to report to the higher level, perhaps, or yourself to make some decisions about it. We have 4 dashboards. The overview spaces is, of course, the totals of what we have. And it's too much to explain it all, but you see the totals of the spaces and the seats and the fixed seats and the chairs, etc. And we have some derived figures in total number of square meters, because sometimes we want to know that. And if you look at this space topologies, these are the can you follow my mouse? Is that okay? Yes? You can see the totals of, we have 30 amphi halls and 16 tiers, etc. And we can, you see this purple little figure, the one, and we can, for instance, select square meters for those halls. And now we have key figures, so we can calculate with it if you design something new. These are based on our figures until now, but you get a grip for it. If you have more of the same, then it's easy. If you, let's say, okay, we want to exchange lecture halls with about 1.1 square meter for active learning halls, with it's about 2.2 meters, then you have this seat capacity issue, and at least you can work with it. You get something to calculate with. Next to that, we have also what we call life cycle analysis, and what we simply count is the life cycle months of these equipment and set it out based on the 5 years of depreciation. And if we have something longer in the house, then you want to, and I have a good example of our computers, because normally we have a depreciation of 4 years for our computers, but we do it at the same time as the whole. So we earn about 20% back, or we extend it, or we have asked the financial guys, what does it mean if we do a year or 2 years longer with a projector, or where the depreciation time was 5 years? Do we earn that? And the answer was, oh, no, that's very nice, because now we can help the other departments which are not so good. So this money is never somewhere visible or whatever. But we thought it's a very important issue. You want to calculate with that, because it's some way of your efficiency or your targeting in other ways. Or you can save this money for other projects or whatever. And even better, you can go to your equivalents. I will come to this. First, I want to show something about this life cycle analysis. We have done some student teams have done some work for us and looked at several manufacturers. And do you realize what a life cycle of a projector from cradle to grave, what it means in CO2? We have all strategic plans over the university that they want to be carbon neutral by 2030. But what is our share in that from the education spaces and all these equipment? And if you have a projector, for instance, these are, of course, general figures. But what we have, we focus on the logistics at the beginning, and we focus at the disposal at the end. That's what we do as universities in the Netherlands. I'm not sure about you, but we do not focus about do we need a better projector or a more powerful projector? Can we do less if we know the contrast ratio? Can we alter this system, and can we decrease our carbon, let's say, the demand for new, and decrease the carbon footprint? And the same is for the use phase. If you make longer use of that projector, you don't want a new one, or and somewhere there is a break-even point, and we do not know where at the moment. We are just gathering the data to get a feel for it. And when you get a feel, then you can think further, and you can I see a lot of, let's say, very positive points in it. What we did is our installed base, if we calculate that for the complete footprint for our 200 education spaces, it was the same as the city of 100,000 inhabitants, our city of Delft, for the annual footprint of 1 year. And now we are talking about really high figures. Can we do something about that? It's really a shocking figures. So that's why we put in this very dashboard, and you also see some green things arriving, because that is after this 5 years, and what can we do about it? We are still in discussion with our financial guys. And another one, okay, I forgot this one, but the asset values is just a calculation of the total figure. And if you have not put in the data, so we have also some red bars, we are not yet up to date everywhere, but it gives you an idea of what is the source that you have out there and what are you responsible for. And if you have the data in it, you can have it out. And the last dashboard, it's only operational since a few weeks. This is live data. What we have done is the 24 hours of a day, and we divided it in time slots, and we look at, okay, our projectors, our AV systems, are they on or off? And off, then, okay, that's good, it's green. And you can talk about standby and the watches, etc. But on-off is our first game, and after that you can go deeper. And the other thing that we were interested in is we have these quad systems. Are they used? Because they are much more expensive than normal full screen situations. So if I go 1 day earlier, then you see something red appearing. At this time slot in the morning at 7, these systems were put on while there was no education. So we say, okay, this is wasted energy, and not only wasted energy, it's also aging of your system. Why would you do that? And most of the time the systems remain on during the break, the lunch break. And if you are much more focused on that, you can gain, because this is only we now have only 5 spaces in it. But if you calculate that over 200 spaces or even 400 and a meeting space, etc., then it's quite a component where you can work with. So I think we have this responsibility as IT managers to show our share. What is our influence? So that is what, okay, there is still one other list, and that is especially if you want to zoom in on campus. We have only one campus, but if you want to zoom in campus or building or space, you can go down and see all the readability and things and all the features. This is not such a nice dashboard, but for you to look back what are the specifics of that very whole, that's easy. And I finally be there. I want to show it's a work in progress. We still work on, and we try to fill in the blanks that there are now between the different departments as real estate and facility management, IT, AV, etc., and all these working lists. So we try to get all those things into sight and work with it, and we can be more in charge, because that is the message behind it. For this, I want to thank you again for this presentation, and we have extended the versions if you already have registered up to the June the 1st, so you can play around and see if it's something for you. If you have any questions, please let us know. If we really are missing the goal because we need to go west instead of east, please let us know, because we want to work on it and we really want to fill this large empty gap between those different departments. And I have a question. After you have tried, what sort of support would you like? Because I haven't shown it, but if you go to the configurator and, for instance, the Sightlines readability, and you click on the question marks, then you get a little PowerPoint with an explanation why things are working this way. It's not all up to date because we are really working every day on new things, but it gives you a flow how to approach some things and how it is built. So for us, it's very important to get your feedback about it. Do you want training videos, or do you want extra LTSMG online some things? I don't know. How would you see the onboarding of your situation? We have import procedures, etc., but do not know exactly what you want and how you work. And we are gathering and we are looking for the best way to do that. Finally, I want to show another application. Perhaps it's interesting for you. It's called Education Spaces Viewer. It's used by our timetable people and teachers to know what sort of room it is. And if you tip on it, you see all the AV facilities, what sort of board, student, etc. Is it that these are all the specifics from out of a using view, not from the managing view. But perhaps you think, okay, that is interesting. Why have we made this online education spaces book? What we had is when teachers were time shadowed in other buildings at the other end of the campus, they wanted to know up front what is it for sort of lecture hall, just to give them an idea. And the same is for the timetable schedulers. So that was my presentation. I hope, yes, very strict within the time. Perhaps there are some questions already, and otherwise, I wanted to say something because I have made some flyers just to remember you, and there are 3. Can you read it? Do you want to manage, and how can you do AV Green? And please go to the table of Greg Jeffries. He is the agent for 2DES for UK and Ireland. And please take them with you and let me know what you think, if it's an add-on for the field.
Fantastic. Hey, thanks for a great presentation. Thank you for questions. So I'm sure after that fantastic, such insightful presentation, you've got some questions for Pete. Catch box at the ready. Oh, you're testing me now. I'm going to go for it. You're going to kill me, Dad.
Hi. Sorry, with ES Viewer, is that what does the room lists?
I'm sorry.
The ES Viewer app.
Yes.
Is that what does the room lists with the like the devices and that? And is that a secondary product or?
The second product is just an overview of all the spaces that you have on your campus. And it's really for the users of the teachers and students. And it's not yet available for, it is open, but the admin is not made for other parties. It's just only for our university. So if anyone wants that, we can, of course, work on that and make it with an admin available for you. But it's not there yet.
Yeah, does that populate from the information put into the Tedesc software?
No, it's quite different. Okay. Because I can hardly, do you hear?
Yeah, it's quite quiet down here on the stage, sorry.
All right. Is that better?
No. Please, can you repeat your question? Because
sorry.
If it's populated from if ESViewer is populated to that.
In the background, these use the same databases. Yes.
So
we can interface them. Is that a correct? Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah. But it's for a different public. Once it's for the users in the spaces, and this 2DES is for us about the spaces.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Just while we're waiting for the next question, just to remind our online viewers, if you're watching live on YouTube, you can tweet your questions in #LTSMG22, We're monitoring the Twitter stream and would love to pose your questions to our presenters this morning. Any more questions from the floor? Just over on the left there, please, if you'd like to launch it over.
Hi, thanks. Really good presentation. It's along the same lines as the last question. If I buy the license for TU Desk, do I get this as well?
I do not have an answer yet because it's not yet available. I must talk to Greg how we will present it.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Thank you. I'll follow up with you.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, there we go. We're going to go side to side, just over on your left.
It's a deep lecture hall.
Absolutely, it is, isn't it? As we found out when I tried to throw the catch box.
Yeah.
Have you looked at audio modelling?
Have you looked at audio modelling?
No, there's not audio modeling in it now. It's pure visibility, ergonomics, not acoustics at the moment, and also not the lighting plan. We have, of course, let's say, plans for next year if you want to put in a sunbeam simulator, because we regularly, if you have daylight, we are surprised in the spring and autumn with the coming sun. These are extra things, but we want to depend on your questions what our priority is.
Thank you.
Do you need these audio things? Because there is a lot of software already available, and those guys are really experts on their field. So I think it's already filled in, and we try to fill in the gaps. So,
Thank you.
Any more questions at all? Oh, Greg. Right down the front.
whoa!
See if it still works after that.
Testing. Actually, it's more of a comment, really, because the background to this is Pete's done so much work and research, and this is based on decades of empirical work that Pete's done. And he's probably quite well known to you in some of the conferences that you might go to. But Pete's shared a lot of his his work and his thoughts in a very generous and open source way. And for those of you who don't know his cookbook, I strongly recommend that you Google it up and find it, because there's a lot of the wisdom and the work that's gone in behind TwoDesk there in what Pete has published. And I think also that will help people realize what the value of what TwoDesk is in all of these integrated functions and their codependencies, how he's worked hard to bring them together.
Thank you, Greg, for this addition. At our university, we really work together with several departments, and we struggled for at least 2 to 4 years before we spoke the same language. It spoke as one word to the third parties who do work for us, because in the beginning we have another definition in AV and in service and in education, and the one who gets the assignment or the commission, okay, they take the best pick out of those definitions, and it's never the result that you want in the end. So we started to write those things down. We did 2 things. One is a governance structure for over these departments, and we really had struggles in the beginning because the director of one department wanted to be in charge for the budget, and the other didn't want the responsibility. So we worked that out over a few years, and the next thing was putting those things on paper. Because if you have something tangible, it's much easier to play around with your third parties and to talk it over. But the worst thing, they could not get grip on visibility, on readability. And that's why we started to make this interactive simulating. And what we saw in practice is that at least 2 to 5 regular meetings between the builders, constructors, and architects. We do it now in 1 hour because we show it directly. What are the consequences? What can you do? It's really effective, efficient, and it saves you lots of hours to meet them. Lots of discussions because it's so clear in a very short time. It's not only efficient, or not only for the management, but also efficient.
I think that's a great way to wrap up. Pete, I've got to say that your shirts have been one of the highlights of the conference for me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Just need to switch to Lecton PC. Didn't realise I was going to have to operate the tech here as well. Excellent. So moving on to our final presentation of the conference. Can't believe it's here already. It's my delight to introduce Caris Green. Caris is Regional Sales Manager of Shaw UK and also leader of the Avixa Women's Council for the UK. And Caris is going to talk to us about the Avixa Women's Council. Caris.
So it's an absolute honour to be here closing the conference for you all. Thank you for bearing with us, sticking to the end, and you will be rewarded, hopefully, with some raffle prizes. I'm a co-leader of the Avixa Women's Council in the UK. As you hopefully know, Avixa is the trade association for the AV industry, and they have a number of committees looking at different subjects and areas of interest. Women are absolutely underrepresented in this industry, as I think we can probably tell from looking around this conference over the last 2 days. Some statistics I've got that are a few years out of date, and I must ask the Avixa for some updated ones, but attendance at trade shows like ISE and Infocom are around 15% women. And in the sales channel of manufacturing, distribution and integrators, of that 15%, we tend to be in sales, marketing, sometimes operational roles, but the number of technical women in the industry is woefully short. The CTS qualification that Avixa run, only 3% of Avixa CTS holders in Europe are women. So there's a huge way to go to drive and encourage technical females in our industry. Why do we need a Women's Council? 6, 7, maybe 8 years ago now, there was a group in the UK called Women in AV, which was a networking and supportive collaboration group. Personally, I didn't completely see the need for it. I was like, why do we need a Women's Council? I want to be recognised as an individual for my talents and my knowledge, not because I'm a woman. But a close friend of mine actually ran the Women in AV group, and I started attending to support her. And sometimes we'd have 5 or 6, maybe 10 people at a meeting, and slowly over time momentum grew. And I met some amazing people from the industry, female and male, through networking, through events, through a mentoring scheme that we ran. And I just really started to see the value in having a network, building your contacts, and having some mentors and people to aspire to be like. I think particularly for younger females coming into the industry, if you haven't got a manager or a senior person in your business or institution to look up to, then it's like, can I achieve this? Am I good enough? Having a community of people has really helped me in my career. Very sadly, in 2019, Abigail passed away of bowel cancer at the age of 43. And a group of us just really felt strongly that we didn't want Abigail's hard work to sort of fade away and disappear, because she'd built up this amazing community. The Avixa Women's Council is a global community to engage and empower and support women, but it hadn't been particularly successful in the UK or had any activity in the UK, because what Abigail did with Women in AV was so phenomenal. But the Women's Council was very active in the States. They have councils for individual states like California and Florida, etc. And they've also starting to grow other councils in Singapore, in Australia, and recently just started groups in Germany and Italy. So a group of us went to Avixa about 18 months ago and said, can we kind of reinvent what we were doing, but as the Avixa Women's Council? So that brings us to the last 12 months, where we've been holding in-person events. First one in November last year, where we have different inspirational speakers sometimes from within the industry, but also from outside the industry. So in November, we had Tessa Sanderson, who was an Olympic javelin thrower, but since her javelin throwing days are somewhat over, she's been heavily involved in things like the 2012 Olympic Committee and Sport England and other initiatives. So hearing her talking about being a female in sport and how female sport has progressed and improved over the last number of years, that was a really amazing opportunity. More recently, for International Women's Day, we held an event where we had a few different speakers, one of them being a man, because it's really important that we have as many men as possible part of the conversation, because if we're just women in a room talking to each other, nothing's going to change. We need all of the guys involved and part of the conversation as well. So yeah, it's in-person events, usually about once a quarter. We also have virtual coffee mornings on the months where we're not doing an in-person event. And again, that tends to be on a specific topic. We've had imposter syndrome, discussing about imposter syndrome, personal branding. We're doing one towards the end of the year on goal setting. We're doing one coming up, hopefully, on menopause in the workplace. And yeah, we're open to ideas of what people might want to hear from us in the future. How can you get involved? You know, encourage the females in your teams to sign up and get along, come along and join us. And guys, you're all welcome as well. There will be a global Avixa Women's Council event at ISE on the main stage. I think it's on the Wednesday afternoon. There's also a separate diversity council which look at issues including race, disability, LGBTQ, and the wider diverse community that we need to encourage within our industry. So the next UK event will be up in Liverpool at the Spine with the Royal College of Physicians. So anyone who's interested, we'd love to see you there. That's about all I've got to tell you, really. Any questions? No? Okay, that's fine. I'll hand back to the LTSMG gang.
Prizes then. Thanks very much for buying the tickets. We raised just over £500 that we're going to donate to the Rainbows Children's Hospice in Loughborough.
Just before we start the raffle, excuse me, two quick things, and before we say cheerio to everyone on the live stream. Just want to make you aware of a partnership that LTSMG has entered into just only recently, and that's with the Institute of Sound Communication and Visual Engineers. It's a professional organisation for the sound communications, video and audiovisual industry. We recently exhibited at their annual conference, I think just 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we also, Adam and I gave a presentation about AV during the COVID pandemic within higher education. It was fantastic to make the connection. If you'd like to know more about the ISCVE, there are some leaflets like this just on a table in the foyer outside. and I encourage you to pick one up. If you're watching on the live stream, just search for ISCVE and you'll find all the relevant information online there. It is another route actually to getting an ECS card. If you're interested, they offer training. Please do check them out. So at this point, we'll say goodbye to our YouTube audience. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching the live stream. It's been a first for us to live stream the LTSMG presentations. It's been fantastic we've been able to do that. And it does mean the presentations will be available to you to view on catch-up on YouTube if you want to rewatch them. So, I think it is over to the raffle.
All right, yeah, I got a bit excited then.
Okay.